All right, let's talk about the Cubs. Last year, they played like shit, pretty much. Lou Piniella quit and retired, and Mike Quade took over the team, and they finished the season 24-13 under Mike Quade. Cubs brought him back, and is that a sign of things to come, or is that just when 90% of the teams aren't really trying hard, they happen to put together a little bit of a run?
I mean, who did they play for the last 30 games of the season? The Pirates? Who were they playing?
Framba, they could not beat the Pirates last year. So.
They knocked the Padres out of the playoffs.
Nobody, I mean, does anyone care? I mean, it's like, I go to opening day every year, and I have the same hope every year. And by the end of opening day, I'm either freezing to death, or depressed, or drunk, or all three. So, Carlos Pena, come on. The guy hits for 200 in the Tropicana field. What's he going to do at Wrigley? 250?
190.
I mean that's our solution. You got, I mean, put it this way. You want to know why we went 24-13 to close the year out? Because Aramis Ramirez and Alfonso Soriano and Kosuke Fukadome are trying to find a way onto another club somewhere like Derek Lee just did. And you know what? They're not the worst problem with the Cubs. The hardest thing to swallow as a Cubs fan is you go to Wrigley Field, and no one's paying attention to the game. That's a well-proven point. I think the problem is they don't seem to have any heart. They don't seem to have any heart whatsoever. And if you look at the Cardinals, who didn't make it last year, the Reds went to the playoffs last year, managed by Dusty Baker. This is the Cardinals' division to win every year because they're the only one that actually has a real organization that develops players, that retains the good ones. If you really think Pujols is coming to the Cubs, you're out of your mind. There's no way that's happening. There's no way Prince Fielder is coming to the Cubs either. So you might as well get over that. So, you know what? Just get used to it. It's more of the same.
All right, first thing I want to do is address Dan, because in part of the question, in the intro to this question, he said that Lou Piniella quit and retired. I just want to make it clear that those are two separate events. He quit in June and retired in August. Yeah. So those were two completely separate events. That said, I'm a fan, and Pete D hates this, I'm a fan of the 5-year plan. I think that we can get heading in the right direction right now. Mike Quade, is he the right guy for the Cubs? I don't know. What I am glad is that they didn't hire Ryne Sandberg. I've written multiple posts about how we need to forget the past. And if they had hired Ryne Sandberg, I think it would have been more for the PR, for making the fans happy, and that it might not have been the right move. Of course, Quade might not be the right move. I feel like he's more of an interim coach. They hired him to a 2-year contract, which means in 2 years, when all of the big contracts, except for Soriano's, has expired, that's going to be when they're evaluating whether or not they're going to be able to compete. And at that point, they're going to be looking for the right manager. Mike Quade, is he going to be it? I don't know. He could be. He needs a couple years to find out. But there's no point of bringing in a different manager right now, setting up a guy to get fired because he's managing a team that doesn't have the talent to win. The Cubs are not a good baseball team right now. They're not going to be a good baseball team. They've got some young guys, they've got some veterans. They don't have a lot of talent. They're going to be, well, they're not going to be a disappointment because you shouldn't expect anything. But if you're expecting anything, I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably going to be the Brewers or Cardinals in first, the Reds in second or third, the Cubs will be competing for fourth with the Astros.
What do you think about the Kerry Wood signing? Is that a good signing? Is that going to make any difference?
Well, what kind of difference are you asking about? Is it going to make them winners? Absolutely not. But they signed him for $1.6 million, I think it was. And forgive me, I didn't look up the numbers, but I think it's $1.6 million. He's a pitcher that you can't count on. He's always injured. He'll be a good setup man, but he's not even going to be the first setup man, in my opinion, because Sean Marshall will be the main setup guy this year. But as far as making a difference, I think he's a good clubhouse guy. We've got a lot of young guys. We've got Russell. We've got Cashner. We've got some guys who need a leader like Kerry Wood. I think it's a great guy to have in your clubhouse at the price they got him for. If you would have even wanted $3 million, I'd say no. But at $1.5 million, $1.6 million, I don't think you can do any better at that price.
Welcome home, Kerry Wood.
Okay, well, this is where the Cubs always seem to get me, and why I hold such deep-seated bitterness. It's because that division that they're in this year isn't that good. The Cardinals are a flawed team. The Brewers don't have the pitching. The Reds have. The Reds put together a really good season, and Joey Votto is a really good hitter, but they're not exactly a world beater. And the Astros kicked it up a notch a little bit toward the end of the year, but they're not that good. And the Pirates are obviously the doormat of Major League Baseball. Yeah, you can't get any worse than them. So it's one of those things where this team's going to be 2 games out in June, and everyone's going to be like, oh my God, look at the Cubs. Somebody's going to be, Carlos Silva is going to be pitching good, or some unsung guy is going to step up and have a good year. And then it's going to be, oh, hey, and then that's how they get me. And then I start getting emotionally involved, and obviously eventually some, Bartman-esque tragedy always occurs. And, it kind of, I don't know. Last year, I'd rather have a season like last year where it was obvious nobody gave a crap, and it made it easier for me not to give a crap as a fan. But something tells me this Quaddy guy is going to have this team motivated, and they're going to be. They don't have the talent to really get that far. Their minor league system isn't that good. They traded away a bunch of guys to get Matt Garza, who I think is a great pitcher for this team, but they got rid of like 2 of their top 3 prospects in the organization to get him. So what you're not going to have is like the San Francisco Giants last year, where they were able to rotate their entire roster during the course of the season and have these minor league guys come in and basically win a World Series on the Buster Posies and guys like that. Their opening day roster started with Aaron Rowan and guys that totally didn't even play in the playoffs or World Series. The Cubs would need something like that, like a deep minor league system, or to be able to make some trades. I don't think the team has the money to do that right now with the trades, and I don't think they have that many prospects left in the minors. So it's going to be one of those things where they are competitive. They're not going to be terrible. They're going to be better than last year. They're going to come up short, and it'll be depressing all around, like always.
Well, Dan, you mentioned the Garza trade and giving up prospects. I'm just going to name a few prospects we've had. Hee-Seop Choi, Bobby Hill,
Bust.
Mike Harkey.
Bust.
I mean, those are 3 of them that were supposed to be huge. Lance Dixon. Does anyone remember the soft-throwing left-handed Lance Dixon?
Gary Scott.
Gary Scott. Kevin Ory.
Jerome Walton.
Mark Pryor. Jerome Walton. Mark Pryor came up and did what he was supposed to do. Kerry Wood did too.
Dwight Smith.
But they were prospects. And they fizzled out. Regardless if it was because of injury, because they were overrated, Felix P.A., Corey Patterson. I don't care about giving up some top prospects. We had a couple of guys that were not necessarily on the verge of coming up and contributing this year. We gave them up for Matt Garza type. He's Matt Garza, who's a Ted Lilly type, a guy that's going to come into the NL Central instead of the AL East, and instead of being 14-10, I think he's going to be a 16 to 18 win guy. And if he pulls together a great season, he could win 20. I don't expect it, but prospects, their job is to make your team better. Sometimes that's by coming up and contributing, and sometimes it's by being traded. You can't count on free agents all the time, so I think when trading for Garza, they made the right move. It doesn't matter what these guys end up doing. Last time we gave up a big pitcher that was a prospect, it was Dontrell Willis. He had a couple great seasons. He fell apart after that. I think the biggest one we gave up before that was Joe Carter in 1984 for Rick Sutcliffe. So usually when you trade these guys,
Palmeiro.
Oh, well, Palmeiro.
Juice.
If Palmeiro would have kept his hands off of Sandberg's wife, he would still be a Cub. He would have retired a Cub.
And
so I'm not even counting that because he wasn't a prospect. He came to the team and he performed, and then there were secondary
Performance enhancement.
That too. So I like the Garza trade. Give up some of your prospects because their job is to make your team better. And by trading them for a good pitcher, you're guaranteed to be better than you would have been without him.
He is a good pitcher. Who do you think of?
Okay, I'll say something. The Cubs will suck forever. Go to the hate corner. I have 2 posts that y'all need to read. 1, I hate Cub fans. I do. I hate you guys. Go read it. You'll fit into one of the categories. And 2, I hate Wrigley Field. It's a shithole.